Alright, so in this video we're going to be focusing on which SRs are good, and I'm going to be precising if they're good in early game, mid game, or late game. Now I have it separated by DPS, supporter, debuffer, defender, and healer, so if you want certain roles, you check the timestamps and I'll have that. Now let me just make certain you know what I mean by early game, mid game, and late game. So early game is really the first few weeks when you're starting to build gear sets and really leveling up your characters. A lot of it is leveling up your characters because you have to kind of get a lot of them up. Now once your account is kind of solidified, you've got a good like 10 people LR about, and you're basically just starting to get main stats. Now you're trying to focus in on main stats. That's when I'd say you're mid game. You got your levels, you finished story, right? You've got everything, and you're a decent ways into Hall of Illusions. You're not done. And for arena, like you're starting to do arena a bit, right? Now late game is really just focusing in on arena, being able to complete most of the content or all of the content in this game, and also just focusing in terms of what you're doing with gear. At that point, just substats, right? So it's mainly just the end of it is very much when you have everything for gear, all your main stats. That's how I see it, right? Because at the moment I wouldn't say that my Canada account is end game or late game, because of the fact that I'm still like trying to chase main stats. I haven't really played in a while, which is why. But my KR account is when I'm really going for those substats, trying to maximize CC. Keyword for late game to me is maximizing CC, where like mid game is probably just like getting those main stats, trying your best to get the right ones and all of that. All right. Now that that's all out of the way, let's get right into it with the DPS first of all. So in terms of DPSs at the moment, there's really just two that I'd say I'd recommend, but I could kind of give an honorable mention to, you know, because of the fact he's green. And at the moment, the only green DPS that's the only other one that's like decent is Fuego. He's an SSR. Now besides that, I'm pretty sure his name is Alec. Yeah. Now the thing is with that, you know, himself is not that crazy after like a week. He has good debuffs, but that's it. He doesn't really do the most damage, but 2 AoEs, which is pretty good. Now in the kind of like, if you want to use him, you might want to use him more like just early game, but that's really it. Like after that, you're really gonna get Riot Lich, and I'm hoping you stick with one of them. Now to the actual people I wanted to talk about, first of all is Solid. Why is Solid good? So he's got an AoE ult that also increases his crit damage. So if you build him with crit damage, you're chilling. Now what's also good about this is that he has a skill page that increases his crit rate, which is very good. Now his skill 2 does apply silence, which is also a pretty good skill to have, where it stops you from using this skill 2. Then his skill 1 also has just a pretty good damage multiplier of 120%, with also the chance to increase crit damage. So Solid does good damage, and then obviously his skill page increases crit rate. So all these crit damage buffs that you see here are good. And then on his skill 2, he also does increase his crit rate if he has the skill page, which it's an SR skill page. So that's all that. Now for him, it's mainly going to be early to mid game, but you might see uses for him late game if you really don't have any blue DPSs. But beside that, it would really be more so just grinding gear at the beginning and not having the stats. He is very useful because he has the AoE plus the semi AoE, which is like a main and adjacent type skill. And if you do build him with crit, if you're able to get lucky with those crits, then he's good. I'd say like for mid game, this guy could be used very efficiently, but early game, he's still pretty good. I gotta say, he's still pretty good. Now next up is Ghost. He's a full single target attacker where he has extra attacks depending on certain things, where if he gets crit, he does extra attack. If he has a buff, he gets an extra attack, and this one is just a chance to get an extra attack. His damage single target is good, and early game will definitely help you quite a lot, right? Funny enough, he has a special combo, United Attack with what's her name, Teresia, but whatever. Anyway, Ghost will be decent and will definitely help you for gear farming if you don't have anything else. And yeah, for DPS, that's basically it. Ghost is a very simple character, just does damage, and like that's it, just does damage stats. That's it. Now for supporters, we actually have some fun variety, and 2 of which are speed supporters. Damn, that is voice. His voice is deep. Okay, his voice is very deep. So I've never heard it on English before. What Voltos does is basically his ult is going to increase the stamina of everyone by 20%. This guy is more of a mid to late game, because early game I really don't think arena is going to be a problem, but once you start getting deeper in and once arena is starting to become rough, this guy could definitely help out. Obviously he's going to help out in early game, early arena too, because of the fact that he's just really good. But you can find use of him anywhere for PvP mainly. He's a PvP supporter, in where he's going to be giving 20% mobility on his ult. And why this is good is that everyone starts off at more than 80% stamina or mobility, and him increasing by 20% means everyone goes up to 100% mobility, and once you're at 100% you attack next, which means he's making the whole team attack next with this. Then he has magic attack on his skill 2 with reduced mobility immunity, which is pretty decent against Lotus, and then he increases mobility on his skill 1. So he's a very good unit, and overall has a very good damage support, and also speed support. Turn 1 making the whole team attack first is very strong, and this Voltos is going to be good in PvP, but PvP only. Now Finral can find uses anywhere because of the buffs he provides are just really good. So on his ult he increases speed, removes debuffs, and then also has a chance to increase crit rate. So the speed increase is very good, and over time it's going to be more like, if you start the match Voltos is better, but over time Finral does get better, because if your speed's higher, the higher your speed, the more you fill up your mobility gauge every turn, which is better over time. But obviously turn 1 Voltos is just better. Now the crit rate buff is also very strong. 22% is really good, and if you have a crit rate buff, you're not only getting increased attack, you're getting increased damage dealt, which is a very strong combo to have. And if he does have his passive, or not his passive, his skill page, the passive becomes also that there's a chance for him to increase mobility, which is it just makes it even stronger, right? So getting the skill page is not going to be that hard, and I do recommend getting it. And the increased damage dealt goes up to 30% at level 5, which is just really insane. Finral is a really good damage support and speed support, increasing speed even further here. And him and Voltos both have 124 speed at max dupe, which is very high. It's the second highest speed in the game, tied, so that is very strong. Now next up is Vanessa, who is more mid to late game, because you have to have like barriers and other defensive units with her to really profit off of what Vanessa is doing. In terms of what she's doing, she is giving a total defense buff with also blessing of protection buff. What total defense does is, it says reduces damage taken, which is true in a way, but it also makes it so you cannot get crit. When you have total defense up, it makes you block an attack. Blocking an attack means you can't get crit, because obviously the attack number is either blocked, normal, or crit. Because it's blocked, that means you have 0 chance of getting crit, and you're also reducing damage by up to 30%. And then if you do block, which you're getting a guaranteed block, you heal 8% of max HP as HP recovery every time the damage resistance is triggered, which is actually really strong with this together, because because of total defense, you will be taking less damage than usual, and then you're healing 8% of your HP, pretty good altogether, right? Then the skill 2 increases her defense by 140% level 2 for 2 turns, which is very strong. And then yeah, increased accuracy, not the craziest, but overall it's these 2 skills. In terms, if you could get these back to back, you are going to be tanking, you are not going to be taking anything, and it's very strong. And just to say, she has a united attack with Finral, not really good, but it is what it is, right? It's really this ult that has total defense. It's why season 4 Charlotte is really good, because on her skill 2, if you have the skill page, it applies all attack increase and total defense. Total defense is very strong, and if you see this Vanessa, you might want to just make sure you take care of her quick, because she can get annoying. Now moving on to Debuffer, this is really just a late game unit when you're farming raid, and especially later stages of Hall of Illusions, in where she is going to be a nuker. I'm just going to talk about her nuking skills, but she does have an ult which basically summons clones, and then the clones on the skill 1 will do extra attacks, right? So what I'm really trying to focus in on is the skill 2 and the combo. The skill 2 reduces defense by 70%, which is the highest defense reduction in the game. And then her combo makes enemies take 60% more damage. So she's a 2-in-1, and it's mainly that her defense is higher than Charlotte's, but she could be a good replacement for Charlotte because of the fact that the incapacitate is 2 turns also instead of Charlotte's 1 turn. 2 turns, it's 10% less damage, because Charlotte's is 70% increased damage taken, but hers is 60. But you have to consider it's 2 turns, which means you have more of a guarantee that you could set things up perfectly to have both the defense and also the incapacitate, where it's much harder with Charlotte. So for nuking, she is probably one of the best, debuffers in the game to actually debuff, and I am very appreciative of Nebra. It's funny because out of all of them, I think Nozelle's the most shafted Silva in the game, which I find very ironic since he's the captain, but it's whatever. Now, what it also can apply is buff block, but usually that won't be too good against bosses if you have the skill page, obviously. But yeah, that's basically it. Nebra, very good for nuking late game, and yeah. Now, next up, we got a defender. She is more like early to mid game because you're really not using her after, right? But Soul is very good just because she has a double single target taunt, which is decent, and it's just her stats. She'll be helping you in farming gear, and you won't really be using this all too often, but removing barrier chance is actually pretty interesting. And wow, that's actually pretty decent. Reducing the magic attack is okay for PvP, but her low speed doesn't make it anything special. But it's just the double taunt for PvE plus her high defense is like all she needs. And I'm pretty sure, yeah, so if they have a taunt, she does reduce damage dealt on herself. So overall, pretty good. I am pretty content with Soul. She's usable, and that's basically it. I've used her on KR. I've tried her out. She's decent, right? She's good enough if you don't have Mars, for sure. She could definitely work. And definitely for people who don't have Mars, if you have Soul, just be happy. You don't need to reroll for an actual account with SSR Mars, right? You have an SR defender right here. Now, next up, we got the healers, and we got 2. So Charmy, first of all, is very good. You're gonna see a lot of people running her because she's good. She's good, man. There's nothing else to say. She has a double heal, and this heal could be an AoE heal if they get the extra attack, which is a 50% chance. And it does do damage with the extra attack because you're going to build her magic attack since you want to heal, which makes it pretty useful. And then the skill 2 is going to be healing, and it can give an SP buff by 1, which put together is both very good, right? So personally, I think she's amazing. Her heals are good. You're going to be healing enough for the team, and I'd say she's worth it. She really is worth it early game. Farming gear with her is very good. Now her ult doesn't do much. Buff removal, and its AoE combo could increase magic attack and SP of the partner, which is actually a pretty good combo. If you use this with someone, it could be decent, but it also takes away a heal turn, so I wouldn't really recommend it all that often. But at least her passive is worth it in terms of it increases HP recovery. So duping her out is pretty worth it, at least getting her to dupe 2. Next up is Mimosa. She's more just mid-game, I guess, because there's no other red healer until Witch Queen, and she's in Season 6. So, you know, she is actually really worth it. She has a double, what's it called? AoE heal. Wait, no. Am I tripping? She has an AoE, she has a single AoE heal and 2 single target heals. And this one is really good. Sorry, wait. Does she not have it? Is it with the skill page? It might be with the skill page, because I swear she had this one skill that I might be tripping about, but I'm pretty sure. Yes, so basically with the skill page, it also adds that if a target reaches their max HP after healed, grants them 20% of their max HP as a barrier for 2 turns, which is a very strong thing, adding a barrier on top of the heals. The AoE heal is good, and then this too it's all nice. It's just a pretty clean kit. It's all it is. A clean kit. It heals. And there's no other healer, so you could use her pretty much whenever you need. But no one's coming out, so, you know, she's going to be the barrier unit. But in terms of SRs, that's basically it. I wouldn't use any of the other ones. But, yeah, no, overall, it's pretty good, right? It is pretty good. And, yeah, I hope this video was helpful, just distinguishing what units are good in what content. A lot of SRs do end up being good. There's not many that aren't really that good. And that is honestly a good thing. They have their uses a lot in early game, but yeah, that's basically it. Thank you guys for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.